Welcome back to my whiskey pick of the week. You know I'm Eric the Whiskey Guy, and as always, as usual, and as expected, am I bringing you a treat this week, and this is no different than any other week. I'm excited to dive into this one. Ladies and gentlemen, this week we're going to be trying for the first time some Japanese whiskey. And this one, I believe, and I hope I get it right, it is the Hibiki Japanese whiskey. And I'm so excited to get this one. I've had a lot of recommendations to try this one, so it was pretty much at the top of my list. And I'm glad I went on ahead and got it. So shout out to everyone that recommended this. And I don't think it's gonna disappoint. Just looking at the bottle, it looks like it's gonna be a doozy. Now, the word Hibiki means harmony, which is pretty much perfect when it comes to this company and Japanese whiskey as a whole. They pretty much go hand in hand. The Japanese, they were introduced to whiskey by an American. His name was Commander Matthew Perry back in, I believe, 1853. He kind of brought it as a peace offering. They loved it. The Japanese, they actually chased it with sugar and dove right into it. The next year, Commander Perry came back. He brought them a barrel, and they was hooked. Now back then they had better access or more access to Scotch and Irish whiskey, so they kind of jumped on that boat. So that's what they were drinking. So the Hibiki would be more of your Scotch. So it pretty much comes from that branch. So it's from the Scotch tree. So I already got a feeling that it's gonna be very smooth like Scotch, and it probably holds a punch like Irish whiskey. I hope it's kind of like a mixture of both of them. Now, the guy that started this company, he's pretty much the founder of Japanese whiskey. He went over to Scotland like around 1919. He became a chemist. He went to school to become a chemist. Then he went and started working at the distilleries. They loved him. They let him apprentice. They let him work there for months. They didn't know that he was gonna go back to Japan and open up his own distillery. So he did that, and he came back, and it took him a little time, but like around 1923, him and a partner, they teamed up. They came up with the Centauri brand, and they pretty much just took off right then. They were pretty much the only people in Japan making their own whiskey. And like Scotch, they pretty much had their own version of the Dewar's White Label. We did a video on that. So that was their first one back in 1923. And just like Dewar's, they had like little catchy catchphrases and slogans. Dewar's, theirs was consistency. It never varies. And they had a little catchy slogan too. Their slogan was, absolutely do not need foreign imports. So they got straight to the point, direct. Imagine if you went to your local ABC and you went to grab a bottle of Jack Daniels and you seen on it, absolutely will need no foreign whiskey, buy domestic, American owned. Well, we would lose our mind. But hey, I guess times were definitely different back in the 20s. I guess it was crazy. I'm glad I wasn't around. But that's pretty much a little history on that. Centauri came out with the Hibiki around 1989. And a little fun fact, around 2014, Jim Beam, they bought the whole entire company. So now not only does it have a Scotch DNA, it's also part of the Jim Beam family. So you mix Scotch and Jim Beam together, you can't go wrong. Not in my book. So I'm excited to get right into it. Yeah, that's smooth. That is real smooth. It's pretty much like how I imagined it was gonna be. You got a little bit. It's kind of like a melting pot of whiskeys. Like if you take a little bit of Scotch, you dab in a little bit of Irish whiskey, put a little bit of Canadian whiskey in it, and then top it off with some bourbon. This is what you're gonna get, and it's pretty fitting for it to be Japanese whiskey. It's very smooth, and Japanese, you know, they really like sake, but like in the last, I say like since this last generation, as far as like the century goes, they kind of started getting into the whiskeys and the vodkas and the gins. So they pretty much know what they're doing. You can kind of tell that they got the same passion, pretty much like how Scotland has when it comes to their whiskeys, and they pretty much adopted the same philosophy on how to make it and how to actually put in quality to produce a quality product, and it pretty much shows. I am very impressed with this one. This is a smooth one. This is one. Now keep in mind, I put the box out here because I wanted you to see it, because they got, you know, obviously they got different levels. This is pretty much like your entry level. I'll call this like pretty much like their version of a small batch. On average, this bottle is around it's like $100 if you go to pretty much like the major stores like Total Wine, ABC, etc., etc. Costco actually had this one for $80, so I went to Costco and got it. I believe it's probably a 76 proof. So that's pretty much the average range that you're gonna have, especially when it comes to scotches, and it's pretty much what it is. That's a perfect proof range for it. So it's very smooth. It doesn't even really pack a punch to it, so it's not like a throat killer or nothing like that. It's very smooth. It's a tolerable drink if you want to just drink it neat. You put it on the rocks, it'll be super smooth. You put a splash of ginger ale, better watch out, because you probably be snoring in about like 3 of these. But this is a quality bourbon. I mean, a quality whiskey. And out of the ones that I got, I will actually put this. I will compare this probably to the Beyonce Sir Davis. They both got that same type of smoothness to it. So I highly recommend, if you see it, grab it. This week, it was Hibiki, Japanese whiskey. We're gonna do it all again.